It is turbulent times we live in. We had the corona crisis, there are wars going on, inflation, the economy is transforming in a speed we have never seen before, and yes, it's challenging for many of us. Now, while it's important to manage the outer dimensions of life, the inner dimension definitely is equally important. The way we look at things, our mindset. Sri Sri Ravi Shankar once said, things are as they are. It's us who label them as beautiful or ugly. And I think that's a very powerful statement. My name is Christoph Glaser, and over the last, 20 years, I had the privilege to support with our team more than 500,000 employees and leaders around the world through coachings, trainings, and in talks. And one aspect that comes out as key, one common factor that I have seen that successful and happy people have, they look at things in a certain way. They have a particular mindset. I would call it a growth mindset. I would like to take you to a journey to a beautiful, beautiful beach. Don't we all love it? A nice holiday? And then we are lying there, having a good time, don't we? But have you ever experienced to be in an ideal outer situation but mentally don't feel well? Maybe you have an argument or you get an information, you reflect on a problem, and there you sit at the beach but don't feel well? It's normal, isn't it? It does happen. I think the opposite probably would be part of your experience too. Maybe you're in a very unfavorable outer situation, traffic jam, you're missing an important meeting or a flight. And of course, we might be upset, it might be deeply troubling, but have you ever experienced a situation where the outer situation is not good, but suddenly your mood actually changes, you listen to a nice music or have a good conversation, and there you sit in the traffic jam, actually feeling happy? The outer dimension are vitally important, and yes, stress many times is influenced by whatever happens around us. But how we manage those situations is equally important, that inner dimension of life. Let's take that example of the traffic jam. What's the story we tell to ourselves? Why is this happening? Is life against me one more time? Is it you who are responsible for us being late? Am I starting to blame somebody? Or do I see solutions? Well, it doesn't matter. We will find a way. Or do I even see it from a different light? Well, worse could have happened. Maybe we would have been in an accident, which is there a couple of kilometers ahead of us. You see the point, right? Mindset matters. That's exactly what mindset is. It's fascinating that every situation out there gives opportunity to interpret it in an infinite amount of ways and forms. Would you agree? And the way we interpret things has a significant impact on our well-being or on our emotions and even on the physical situation we are in. And there's interesting research. I'm going to share one of them with you. And that's a piece of research which had been done at Yale back in 2010. Remember, 2008-9 were difficult years for the world economy. Everybody was talking in terms of crisis. And Yale worked with bankers who had gone through severe amount of stress. What did they do? They formed two groups. Group number one was exposed to videos which was explaining them that stress will weaken you. Make sure you're not exposed to any stress because it is very, very harmful, was the message in these videos. And it was backed by science because, quite frankly, you can make that point. Video number two and group number two had a completely different message. The message there was, well, lucky you when you have stress, because stress is very important. It increases your resilience. It helps you to mobilize all your energies. You will, whatever doesn't kill you will make you stronger, and that's a good news. Then they followed these two groups over the next couple of weeks and measured the life satisfaction, mental well-being, physical well-being. and the results were actually stunning. What do you think? Which group had higher levels of well-being? Well, quite significantly, it was group number 2. The group which was told that stress is quite fine. What does this tell us? The way we look at things determines how we are able to cope with them. Mindset matters. The glasses through which I and you see the world changes the way we see the world or the way the world is. Well, we can't differentiate it after a certain period of time. Would you agree? So we become subject to our mindset very soon. Yet the good news is we can manage, we can work with our mindset. Today scientists know that neuroplasticity is a fact. Our brain develops not just till we are 20 years old. That's an old paradigm of science. Today we assume that we can develop till we are 60, 70, 80 years old if we expose ourselves to the right stimuli. And that's the objective of this session. I would like to share with you 4 mindset hacks, 4 experiences from my life and from our vast experience at the TILEX Institute on what helps to work on the level of the mindset. Let's start. Mindset hack number 1. Cultivating optimism. The good old glass, is it half full or half empty? Well, that's a mindset, right? And I'm sure you have been with people who see everything very negative. You have been with all these good old optimists. For me, I was really challenged when it comes to optimism. I think, been in my youth throughout happy, an optimistic child or youth. And my great dream was to become a soccer player. I loved it, to run, to play. And quite soon I was fairly successful with our FC Basel. I was in different teams in Switzerland, selected. And I wanted to become a professional. However, when I was 17, I had a severe accident on the soccer field, actually, with my back. I was brought to hospital. Well, I knew that night that a sports career was impossible. A vertebra had moved and many complications. I was really hardly able to walk over the next couple of weeks. And for many years, actually, although I did a lot of therapy, I would have pain. And that pain went to my mind, you know. I remember telling, in particular to my father in our discussions, that I just don't think I can take it anymore. I was at the age of maybe 21 when I told him, I don't think I'll be 30. I just will not make it. This is too much. And so, of course, I sought for help. I went to doctors. I went to one particular doctor after some time in Germany, across our border. And I told him exactly the story. And he looked at me and said, you know, Christoph, I tell you, I guarantee you, I see your intention, I see what you're putting into getting this solved. I guarantee you, when you will meet your friends, your colleagues from now, your school colleagues, when you're 30, you will be one of the most healthy and fittest. I didn't think so, but when I walked out that day, out of his office, I noticed something had significantly changed in me. He didn't treat my body, he treated my mind. I had a particular mindset, and I want to talk about that. It's so vitally important. You know, I had that mindset that I always will have pain. I walked out though with realizing I have pain right now and I need to accept that. In fact, acceptance is key to manage pain and to overcome troubles. But I eternalized it. I cut off the possibilities which are there in the future. And that reduced my resilience, that reduced my ability to mobilize all my resources. And quite frankly, why should I invest all my energy if I anyway know the result at the end of it? And Professor Seligman and his team have identified that words play an important role in that. Words like always or never cut our field of possibilities. Do you see that? And that would be tip number one. Watch your language. If you use words which eternalize the challenge that you have right now, maybe you can replace them, right? I will never be promoted. I haven't been promoted for the last 2 years. Well, that's a big difference. Would you agree? Okay, cultivating optimism so that we can tap into the possibilities of the future is mindset hack number 1. I want to come to number 2. And for that, I want to check in with you. When you look at your next week, next couple of weeks, are there some meetings that you don't really look forward to? Do you know this feeling? You look at your calendar and then you see, oh, meeting here, there, and you realize, oh my God, thinking of that already makes me kind of feel bad. Well, number 2 is using the power of visualization. And for that, I want to share with you an experiment. I brought it here with me. That's from the University of Chicago. And they did an interesting one on basketball. Well, Group 1 was practicing for 30 days, 1 hour a day, throwing the basketball. Obviously, they will improve. Group 2, they didn't practice physically, but mentally. For 1 hour, they sat, they had a tea, and they imagined throwing a basketball. Group 3, they had a lot of teas, but they didn't practice neither physically nor mentally. What would happen? Would they improve? And here's your result. Group number 1 improved by 24%. Group number 2, who visualized only, improved by 23%, almost the same amount. Group number 3 didn't improve at all. How come? Well, today neuroscientists know that for our mind, it just doesn't matter whether something really happens or we imagine it. How otherwise could we have dreams and sweat because we are so afraid of what we are dreaming? It's a physical reaction to an imagination. And scientists have also found that if somebody's afraid of a spider and, under MRI you check all the brain functions, the same reactions are there, whether you see the spider or you imagine it. And again, that's really a bad news when we have a lot of negative thoughts. Imagine, we have 6,000 thoughts every day. Each of the thoughts or images have the power to evoke emotions, to change your body to the worse or the better. And if 60, 70, 80% of these thoughts are negative, which happens for many of us, that's a turmoil, that's a challenge. But we can work with it. Because thoughts become actions, actions form our habits, habits the personality, and personality many a times are part of what then becomes our destiny. So if you would like to kind of play with that, and I use the word play with intention, then you could do the following. First step number 1, become aware of your images that you associate with any event in the future. Let's say you have a meeting or an important talk next week. What images are coming up? What are your associations? And very important, and that's why I said play with it, don't push it aside. That's one of the crucial mistakes we make in self-management. The more we resist any thought, it will persist. But can you also create positive scenarios? How would you like the situation to unfold? Just imagine it, be with it, stay with it. How does it look? What would other people say? How will you feel? You're actually experiencing it. And you will familiarize yourself with these type of positive associations. And when the day comes, it is easy to step into that direction. Plus, there is another important advantage. The more positive images we have and emotions associated with the future, the more we look forward to prepare for such an event. And the more we prepare, typically, the better is the outcome. So that's number 2. Use the power of visualization. And with that, I come to tip or mindset hack number 3. And that's about the importance of being present. I speak now, you listen to me. Yes, your body is in front of the screen, but is your mind really there? 100% there? Our mind has the tendency to race into the future and past. We plan, we learn. The more stressed we are, the more our mind typically moves. We're like a pendulum between future and past. If we want to manage our mind, we need to be aware of the mind. We need what we call at the Telex Institute balcony moments. Moments in which we are literally observing what's happening in us. Oh, I am internalizing a problem. That needs self-awareness. And to be more and more self-aware, for that we need to practice our presence muscle. Presence can be practiced like a muscle, and one of the most powerful ways for that is breath-based mindfulness. And now I've been talking for quite a bit, and I thought let's do for 3 minutes a short exercise. Are you tuned in for that? All right. So then sit comfortably. If you listen to this talk maybe as a podcast while you're walking or while you're driving, please don't do this exercise. But otherwise, you could just sit comfortably. Close your eyes. I'm doing it as well. I'm closing my eyes even as I'm standing. But for you, you could sit down and just drop for a moment the weight of your body on the chair you're sitting on. And relax. Let's take a long deep breath in and breathe out, let go, just relax. And for this moment, without any effort, just observe what's happening in you. Notice your body. Maybe your legs, your abdomen, your shoulders and arms, fingers and hands, your face, the whole body. And take a long deep breath in and breathe out. Let go. Now imagine that both in your right and left hand you are carrying a basket. And look for a thought. And if you identify this thought to be about the future, put it effortlessly into the basket in your right hand. And if the thought is about the past, put it in the basket in your left hand. If it's about the present, just let it be. Look for a thought and place it into the pertaining basket. Take a long deep breath in and breathe out, relax. Search for a thought, and if it is about the future, place it into the basket in your right hand. If it's about the past, in the basket in the left hand. Take a long deep breath in and breathe out, let go. Then you can drop your baskets. You don't need them anymore. Just relax for a moment. Drop all your efforts. And notice that right now, in this very moment, you don't need to do anything at all. Let go. And breathe in and out. And when you feel ready, at your own time, you can open the eyes again. You know, maybe you enjoyed it, maybe you feel relaxed now, maybe even a little bit tired. Maybe you felt restless, maybe you wanted to hear more of a talk, or you just couldn't tune into it. It really doesn't matter. Science has shown that we can train what we would call the presence muscle. In fact, it has been shown that if you practice 8 weeks in a row, that's a Harvard piece of research, just about 10 minutes a day, there are changes, sustainable changes, even measurable with MRI on the level of your brain. In fact, what you see here is that there's an increase in the gray matter density of your hippocampus, which indicates higher levels of memory and learning, and there's a decrease in activity in the amygdala, which shows that we are better able to deal with stress, and we have higher levels of awareness. In stressful situations, we are able to act and observe from the balcony what's going on in us, and that is really the start of self-management. And that's tip number 3. And I want to share with you another very interesting piece of research on what that can do for us. You know, when we are in these moments, when we are truly relaxed and alert, as we are typically after a mindfulness exercise, we get into what we call the flow. And McKinsey has done, and you see it here, a 10 years research on the impact of flow. And yes, you can get into the flow in many different ways and forms, but once we are there, it has shown that we are 5 times more productive and creative. That's simply amazing. With that, we come to the final tip. And here, I would like to share with you a picture from Roger Federer the Great. Well, tip number 4 is about allowing yourself to develop and to use the power of acceptance. Look at the career of Roger Federer. How many percent of all the points that Roger Federer has played would you guess has he lost? Is it 5%, 2%, 10%? No, it was 47%. 47% of all the points that Roger ever played, he lost them. He lost 35% of all the Grand Slam finals he played. Yet, many consider him the greatest of all time. And I, quite subjectively, for sure do. Now, an average tennis player will lose about 49% or even more than 50% of all the points, right? So the margins are very slim. And whenever Roger lost, it was very interesting to look at his press conferences. In fact, in the times where he wasn't very successful, and there were a few of them, but when he had his first decline in 2008 or so, the media started picking on him, and they said maybe his time is over. And they would say, well, his press conferences are not good. Why? Because a typical press conferences after a heartfelt loss of Roger would go the following way. He would say, yeah, this was very painful. I would have loved to win. But actually, I have learned quite a lot. I've gained quite a lot of data out of this particular defeat. And people were saying, what data? This is terrible, right? You lost a Grand Slam. You maybe lost Wimbledon against Nadal. But today we would probably describe that as a growth mindset. A growth mindset is a situation where we value learning over short-term success, where we tell ourselves to be the best version of ourselves. We can't just have the single focus on this one event, but we need to look at life and at a career from a broader perspective. Research has shown that when we feed back children in a way where we honor effort more than intelligence, they develop better. It's much smarter to say to a kid, well, you tried hard, than to say you are so smart. Because when we think we are smart, when we identify so much with a particular success, that becomes part of our identity. And the stress levels when we don't achieve these goals rise so high, the anticipation of not being able to achieve it becomes so high that many a times actually we don't get there and we're not able to be the best version of ourselves. So these are the 4 mindset hacks. Cultivating optimism, using the power of your visualization, training the presence muscle, and allowing yourself to grow and develop. With that, I wish you all the best. I invite you to subscribe to the TLX channel. I would be very happy if you do so. We put a lot of effort into that. And I have put also down there a link for you with more information on mindset and resilience. Stay tuned. Looking forward to seeing you soon again.